Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm here with, of course, my cohort in this, um, Bill Tierney, who is a compassionate results-based coach,
Compassionate results coach. Yeah.
which is lovely. I mean, like that really gets at it all. Like you coach the whole human being.
Yeah. People that are wanting some help getting some results that they
Yeah.
are able to get.
And this relates to our topic today too. By the way, I'm Martin Kettlehite, and I coach entrepreneurs and executives, and in whatever they bring, it's usually about making more money or communicating better or managing their time. But this precious coin that we have called life, and the short little time that is. But one of the things that is coming up for both Bill and me, and we wanted to discuss in the podcast today, is this criticism that sometimes you hear people file against each other, that you're in your head.
Yeah.
Right? You're doing something over there that it feels like there's some separation. You're in your mind and not relating directly to what's here and now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to look at both the validity of that observation and also how it might also miss some important things sometimes, or discredit an intellectual approach when there's nothing wrong there. So how do we get into this, Bill?
Well, just as you introduced the topic, by the way, it's December 31st, 2025, in case anybody's wondering which year we're getting ready to turn over into the next one, 2026 tomorrow. Well, I guess as I was listening, what occurred to me was, if I'm hearing someone start a statement with "YOU," my defenses come up.
Mm-hmm.
To me that want to defend me, and
Mm-hmm.
because what's coming is a judgment. You are, you do, you don't, you should. These are all judgments.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first thing that pops into my mind is that there's something to say about the way someone else is showing up. What's really useful for me is if someone tells me how they're impacted by how I'm being.
Mm-hmm.
When someone says to me, "You're too much in your head," and I've gotten that in my life. In fact, I just got it yesterday. I feel defensive, and I wonder what they really are pointing at. What is the experience that they're having that has them end up soliciting that kind of a judgment that I didn't ask for?
Yeah. So I've had this criticism, if we can call it that, judgment, I think is better. Not just once or twice in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, heard it. Me too.
Right. And the way it was explained to me, one of the most important time when I was actually being coached on it, not just, some other unimportant person to me say, "Oh, you're in your head." They were having the experience of not connecting with me.
There we go. I think that's probably, I'm going to guess that's something like that. You're not present. I don't feel like you're here. It seems like your mind has wandered somewhere else, and that you're not actually here.
Yeah.
That comes a little bit closer to having me want to reflect, to take a look at it, and really acknowledge whether or not that's valid. I might not even be aware. That might be a real gift to hear from someone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you're present, something like that, because it seems like your mind's off somewhere else.
Well, I love that you put it that way, Bill, because isn't this one of the principles of nonviolent communication? You don't criticize what the person is doing. You let them know how it's affecting you.
Right. Yes. I love that part of it, where Marshall Rosenberg, the creator and author of Nonviolent Communication, is giving examples of, for example, it might be, I'm making up over here that you are in your head traveling somewhere else other than right here. Is that what's going on?
Right. And then you can say, oh, no. Or, yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm left
switch.
at 5 minutes. Yeah, a lot of times my answer would probably sound like, yes, I'm still 5 minutes ago. I should have spoken up. As soon as you talked about that one thing and then changed the subject, I stayed with that one thing. So yeah, you're perceiving accurately that I'm no longer with you. I'm still really interested in the thing we were talking about 5 minutes ago.
That's great. And here's another one very closely related. This happened to me with a friend the other day. I had an agenda because we had a very short amount of time. I even had it written down on a piece of paper. These are the 5 points we need to discuss in the next 15 minutes. And his mind was like he got stuck on something in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we both were like critical of each other. You're not talking to me. I'm not talking to you. You're not talking. But we were both like, wait, what's not working here? Right. And we're both a little critical in that moment.
And blaming each other for what's not working.
That's right. So, and then when we stopped and slowed it down, it's like he really did need an answer to his agenda issue before he could move on with my agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And vice versa. He needed me to recognize that I was pushing an agenda. And, if we didn't finish this in this 15 minutes, we could definitely do it another time. Right. So we both had agendas. So I think there's also that phenomenon. It's not necessarily mutual. It could be one side has an agenda, the other doesn't. But, that's what's giving them an experience of, wait, you're not really communicating with, we're not connecting here,
Yeah. I think that's probably what, anytime I've gotten that feedback, that's probably what it's about. That I'm no longer present and they notice that. And it's probably accurate a good portion of the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's also like a value hierarchy around being in your head as not being as valuable as being in your body or in your heart. And that comes up a lot too, especially in personal development conversations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we need all three: body, mind, heart.
Right.
They're interdependent. Like they're all valid and valuable. There might be times when one is more, important to be invoked than the other.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm speaking to your heart, and you're analyzing what I'm saying. Come on.
Exactly. Which, upon investigation or exploration, might reveal that an escape to the head and into thinking when it's a matter of the heart, when one person is speaking from emotions and from heart, and the other person's analyzing, the person that's analyzing may very well be defending in some way. There may be something about that emotion that feels, let's just say, for example, dangerous. Mm-hmm. And then escaping into the head and becoming analytical can create a real disconnect. And I can easily imagine and how justified it would be to have the other person feel a complaint about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or an expectation. I remember a conversation with my cousin about our last trip that we did together. And she had an expectation that I was going to pick her up and drop her off from the airport. And that wasn't the way and so there was this moment when, I realized, oh, she's in her head because has this expectation and I'm not speaking to it. And so she's lost,
Yeah. So it sounds like this conversation is really about presence and connection.
I think that's right.
And that in the different contexts where one might be pointed out that someone's in their head, that underneath that is the awareness at some level of a disconnection.
Mm-hmm. Now, does that shed any light? You don't need to necessarily go into this, but I'm just curious on the conversation that you had yesterday.
I believe so. I think when I go into my intellect and to figure things out or to project or try to understand or make sense of something, I'm no longer with whatever that is that I'm trying to make sense of. I've taken as much information as I have, and I'm trying to run it through a calculator in my mind to project what it all means or what I can expect to have happen. And for me, the thing yesterday was that I wanted to be able to have I wanted to be able to be more receptive to spiritual messages. And the person that I was talking to indicated that as long as I had skepticism, as long as I was in my head wondering whether or not the information I was getting was valid or coming from who I thought it was coming from or wanted it to come from, that it didn't work that way, and then it wasn't in fact going to work. That I somehow needed to get out of my head and have a different experience, probably one that I'm not even aware of, probably an experience that I've not even had before, which left me feeling frustrated and powerless. But so, I can see that if I'm trying to figure out how to be spiritual, how to connect with spirits, that the intellect that is employed to figure that out is not going to be able to travel that far. That it's going to come up short. So I can see that.
So, but I think maybe more importantly for us to talk about with our audience here is when you want to give somebody that information and get connected to them, how to go about that so that they don't get even more in their head, because you criticize them and triggered them.
Right. Well, it might be recognizing the unmet need, and that goes back to the nonviolent communication again, where they talk about what is the unmet need. If there is a disconnection, it may be because there's an unmet need that hasn't been acknowledged. So slowing down, and when I'm thinking of this past weekend when I was hanging out with my son and my grandsons, and there were moments of disconnection where I would have liked to have more connection. And it felt awkward when other times, most of the time, in fact, it just really flowed. It was very nice. But there were awkward moments when, and I just chalked it up to, I'm intruding in their lives. This isn't, inserting myself in their lives over the weekend has them having to accommodate me in ways that they don't know how to do gracefully, and how to include me. So I was very clumsy with it. I don't know that I did a very good job of communicating what it was that I didn't slow down and ask myself, what is the unmet need that I have here? And if I slowed it down right now, I could see pretty quickly that the need was I wanted connection. I'd made the trip over there, 6-hour drive to get there. And I wanted to be able to really have connection with all of them. And when what I was getting was a smoke screen, for example, my grandsons, or that they were distracted, or that they just wanted something from me other than connection, like money or buying them something. Then I noticed that I suffered a little bit over that. Like I had a lot of thinking around what should and shouldn't be. What I didn't do was slow down and ask myself, what is my unmet need? And had I done that, I might have been able to say to especially my grandsons, I don't get to see you very often. I'd like to get to know you better. I'm not here as a cash machine. I'm here to really get to know you better and understand what your life, and have you share with me as much as you can, and maybe even tell you about me if you're interested in my life. So in the absence of that, there was some suffering that was going on.
Do you still have, you were coming back from a trip with your wife recently, maybe like 2 months ago?
In August.
Sorry?
In August.
Right. Okay. So a little more than 2 months. And you had created a set of questions for getting reconnected.
Yeah.
Do you still use those?
We do every week. And it's interesting that you bring that up right now, because now that you bring it up, that's something else I could have done with my grandsons when I was over there. To ask them what's alive inside right now for you. Now that they're not traveling that road, they're not. My impression is that they're not consciously aware of what they're experiencing inside. They're pretty externally focused.
All the better. Like there's a whole universe there that you could open up for them.
Yeah.
By asking that simple question. I was talking to a client and I was feeling like we were disconnected. He was rambling. It felt like to me about numbers and stuff. It just felt like he was filling the space.
Yeah.
And I opened up I have a folder called coaching materials, and it's full of, little things that I've used, little conversation helpers or, patterns that get at certain stuff. And there was those questions for how to reconnect. And I didn't read them all to him, but as we're talking, I went, what's alive for you inside right now? It wasn't the first question I asked, but they were, and those 3 questions, it shifted the whole conversation. He and I then got really connected. So I just wanted you to know they work.
Oh, good. Yeah. And having you point that out to me tells me that had I been more present and less concerned about getting whatever it was that I was unclear about what I needed and wanted from that experience, I might have engaged them in that way. Like, what do you, I might have asked my grandson, what are you feeling right now? What's going on inside? Where's your mind? What are your concerns, worries, or fears? What's important to you right now in your life? Questions like that.
Yeah.
And we did have, I did go down that road a little bit. He was telling me about, he's 12 and apparently in school now, everybody gets tablets to computers, little laptops or tablets to do all their work with. And he was showing me how in some classes that he's not very engaged in, he's figured out how to find games to play to get to to kill the time during class. He also showed me, his grades, and that opened up conversations about, how is it for you? How is school? Are you struggling? Is it easy? Are you bored? Are you interested? Tell me more. And I wanted to know more. And so that was the most connection that we had between me and the 12-year-old grandson.
Yeah.
The
Great.
Time we were there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there is an example where there was more value in not being in separate heads.
Right.
But I do want to give you a chance to say more about, because I think it is important. There are times when we are in our head and it's appropriate and it's good.
Yes. Yeah.
Or natural even, like we're endowed with heads. Sometimes we go there.
With brains, very complex, advanced technology.
And I don't want to feel bad about the fact that there are times when I am up there. That's where I go sometimes. I don't think that's bad. I mean, it would be bad if, I were talking to a client and not really connecting, that would be bad. Or a loved one, in certain moments, if I were not really present, but so what is the value and when is it appropriate?
Well, for me, I'm very creative. Here's an example that I gave in a conversation yesterday. So in my coaching groups, in my True You groups, I do a 30-minute coaching spotlight with one of the participants, and that's scheduled and rotated so that everybody gets an equal chance to have that coaching spotlight. Basically, it's a 30-minute coaching session. But we almost always use the IFS model in that coaching session. The other participants in the group, and there's up to 7 others that are observing during that 30 minutes, they're asking themselves questions like noticing what's alive inside for them, what becomes activated as they're observing. And then they get an opportunity to report that once that 30-minute spotlight is complete. They get 1 to 2 minutes to do that.
Uh-huh.
So that leaves, out of a 90-minute session, that leaves us about 15, 20 minutes to do a group exercise. That is always a journaling exercise. Well, I don't know what that exercise is going to be until I do the coaching spotlight. And I just trust that once I've done the coaching spotlight, there's going to be a theme there, especially as I'm listening to what other people were experiencing as they listen and as they observed the session.
Yes.
And what amazes me is that the combination of intellect, intuition, and inspiration combines for me to be able to improvise and design the exercise on the spot. And the exercise 100% of the time so far has been amazing, very powerful. The whole goal of each one of the exercises is to bring up awareness about ourselves, based on the theme that showed up in that coaching spotlight. So there's a time that my intellect serves me amazingly well, drawing on past experience, drawing on what I understand about the IFS model, and keeping in mind that I've got 8 souls there in that group that are looking for me to facilitate a way for them to have more self-awareness and more internal peace.
It sounds like there's a nice integration of presence as well, because you had to be listening to what's going on to come up with that exercise.
Right. Oh yeah. If I was distracted, and this rarely happens, but occasionally like an email will pop up or somebody will text me in the middle of a session. And I have a part that wants to see what is that text? Is that so-and-so answering my question from an hour ago? Can I sneak a look at that? And the moment I begin to go in that direction, I become less present. And I know the client is talking or saying something, but I've lost the thread because my conscious mind has gone somewhere else. It seems, I don't know if this is true or not, but it seems this kind of goes along the lines of the myth of multitasking. That we really can only focus consciously on one thing at a time.
I believe that myself very strongly. I mean, there are times when I'm doing several things at once, but my attention is never on all of them. It's like it goes over here while the pasta's boiling, I'm stirring the sauce, but I'm not really multitasking. Because if I go over there, the sauce could boil over, and I'm standing right here. So I think there's truth in that.
Yeah.
And the other thing that occurs to me, there are times when I feel like I want to say to some people sometimes, like, think it over, like go in your head and work this out.
I see. Yeah.
Like you're never in your head. Go in your head. I think
do the intellectual labor, do the work, right? Think it through. And that's a really good point, Marty. I've never been accused, other than by my father growing up, of being stupid. But there are things that I didn't learn how to do, and that would have required diligence, slowing down, paying attention, studying. And that's, I would have been accurately accused of that, of being intellectually lazy, not taking the time to learn something. And there's been so many times that once I did take the time. Here's a great example. When I was in the grocery business, I was working as a department manager in a store, and the corporate office sent out a computer tech, and his task was to train all of the department heads on how to use a couple of programs on the computer. And this is in the early 90s, so it was kind of revolutionary. The computer wasn't very advanced yet. And what he had to show us that day was how to use Microsoft Excel, or a program like it called Twin. And when he called me up to the office and said, "Okay, it's your turn. I'm going to show you how to use this computer," I said, "No, thank you very much. I don't need computers. I don't need it." He said, "Oh, no, you don't understand. This isn't an option. The corporate office has sent me out to train all the department heads. You're a department head and you want to remain to be one? You want to continue to be one? Yes, Okay, well, have a seat. I'm going to show you how to do this. Don't worry, you're not going to break it. And that was my fear. I was going to break the computer. And after about 20 minutes, he was showing me how to, I don't think we even had a mouse at that time, but he was showing me how to enter information on a spreadsheet and how to build a formula to have it calculate. And the moment that happened, and I saw that I could make it work, I got excited. I got very, very interested. And then it got to the point where I was doing anything that I could using that program that he taught me. Prior to that, I'm just, no way. I'm not gonna touch it.
Like people are right now with AI. Like, ooh, how can I use this? Let's.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you bring that up, that the criticism on the other end of the argument, like you're not in your head enough.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that there are people that are probably in their emotions so much that it disables them.
Yeah.
That they need the more of a combination of intellect with those emotions.
Or image. I'm thinking of certain parties I've been to, like there was no thinking going on. It was all about image.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think of me? In other words,
how do I look?
Right. Yeah. So it's just a matter of balance. It sounds like what we've discovered here or discussed so far is that there needs to be a balance, that there's a time for us to be using our brain. Otherwise we wouldn't have one, to be thinking things through when we need to plan. If I'm going to take a trip, I need to have somewhat of a plan. How am I going to get there? Am I going to drive or fly? When am I going to go? What's the cost going to be? Where am I going to stay? What do I need to bring with me to be prepared? What are we going to do while we get there? All of that requires planning. That requires me being in my head.
Yeah. There's a lot that gets left out of most traditional leadership coaching. True leadership isn't just about you. It's about your relationships to people, to issues, and to objective reality. Schedule a complimentary discovery session to get at all of it. Go to listeningisthekey.com, click on the pop-up.
And if I'm remiss and I just think, hey, I'll go, I don't know, I think maybe I'll go to Seattle, maybe I'll go Friday, maybe I'll go Thursday. I don't know what I'm going to bring. I don't know how long I'm going to stay. If there's no plan,
right,
it might be great, but if I want
sometimes, yeah, but it depends. The more it involves, coordinating with the people or with the car that's going to need gas or whatever, like the more coordination required, the less, you can do that. But I think it's bringing up for me like this, because just like that, keep maintaining the balance. Like you said, something to that effect a minute ago. Like we are both, we need both, and just being, like ready to tip. Like if you're with somebody, you realize like, oh, I'm really up here, I'm not with them. That you can just easily, shift, and vice versa. Like, oh, wait, I need to think that through. Hang on. Let me think this over. Okay. And then, so I think it's like just staying astride of that, because they are very different aspects of human being.
As you're saying that, I like the comment, I need to think this over. There are times when I'm pressed to make a decision. Mm-hmm. And if I just give in to the pressure to make a decision and ignore what I feel, which is that, let's just say something inside tells me there's more to be considered. I'm not clear. I'm still conflicted about it.
Yeah.
And I have in my life made decisions because I felt pressured to do so when I wasn't quite ready to make that decision.
I hate that.
Yeah. Buying a car, choosing a particular house. I mean, big things.
Yeah.
Even getting into relationships, felt pressured to do so. Mm-hmm. This turned out great, but in my second marriage, my wife asked me to get a vasectomy reversal. And that's a huge decision.
To do what?
Get a vasectomy reversal so that we could have a baby together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Unexpectedly, my first wife died, and I'd had a vasectomy. We had enough kids. So I didn't expect that I'd be getting married again. So once I got married again, my second wife, after we'd gotten married, asked me if I would get a reversal, and was, coming with a lot of emotion about me even hesitating to do so. So I felt a lot of pressure to have that reversal. And like I said, it turned out great. I ended up having a daughter as a result of the giving into the pressure to have the reversal. And so I can't say that was a mistake, but I didn't feel good about the decision. I only felt the relief of no longer feeling pressured to do what she wanted me to do.
I mean, I'm also noticing as we're talking about this subject that there are some people in my life who are very in their head, and I can see now, I hadn't noticed this before, they're becoming more and more isolated.
Yep.
Like since we graduated from college together, doesn't eat like other people, doesn't have much of a social life, has a very special job situation where he doesn't have to interact with people, but gets paid, and like, I'm just noticing like, wow, my friend Don, it's affecting his life. Because one of the things we were talking about before we pressed record was how I got coaching early on in my career that I was in my head. And I value that coaching. I still use that coaching because although there are times when it's, I will go off for a week and be in my head, still the effectiveness of my coaching doesn't come from that. It comes from my being present.
Right.
So, I think you can also begin to see in people's, I noticed this when I listened to different people in meetings like that. You can just tell that person spends all their time in their head. You can hear it.
What would that sound like? How could you hear that?
Well, I didn't want to go out because I was afraid that people would and I spent the whole day, just trying to figure out where to put this painting on the wall and like this kind of thing.
I see. So yeah, so storytelling, analyzing, using the mind to try to resolve internal conflict.
Yeah.
Using the mind to protect from a perceived threat.
Yes. So back to the observation, like these are all important parts of it. Our body is also, we haven't spoken that much about it, but like it needs its own kind of attention that isn't thinking and isn't spirit and isn't, it's just your body. You got to look at it and treat it as your body. So these are different ways that we experience life as a human being, and they're all important. None of them are bad. And so it's just like, keeping aware that you're sitting on all of the eggs, you're keeping them all warm and not just one of them.
Well said. Yeah. And mentioning your body, what a great and relatively easy way to get present if you're having trouble staying there. By just focusing on the body. What am I experiencing physically right now? Well, unless I'm holding my breath, I can count on, and even then I can focus on the experience of holding my breath. But focusing on the experience of breath will 100% of the time has always helped me to become present until it becomes automatic again. And as soon as breath becomes automatic again and I forget to be involved in it simply by observing it, then my mind goes off somewhere else. I've got a very, very busy mind. So I don't have any argument with the person that told me that I'm often in my head. It's true. I absolutely am. Very, very busy mind. And sometimes that busy mind is reflecting current reality.
Yeah. It's just a matter of making it okay and bringing it into the present, bringing it into the present. Like, okay, what are you thinking about? What's going on? What's, you know,
Right.
but yeah, I just want to acknowledge that another thing that I'm taking away from this conversation, because sometimes I will call out a client. It happened the other day. A client, I could see that, I don't know if you can, like, he was bouncing his leg and it was moving his body. And I was like, dude, what are you thinking about? And he's like, how do you know I'm thinking about something? I said, because your body is showing it to me. And he's like, wow, you're right. He said, I'm really worried about this coaching assignment. I asked him to go have a certain conversation with the wife, and he was, that's when it started. He's like, oh my God, how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
So that went okay. But I want to really take in this part of the conversation about how to approach people who are in their head, because you don't want to like scare them or insult them.
Right.
Right. Another one happened very recently. I was asking a client if she could do something, take an action based on our coaching within an hour after the call. Yes. And get back to me. And I saw her doing this as I was saying that. She's just scratching the hell out of her own thumb. I'm like, maybe it doesn't have to happen in the first hour after we get like, I see that instigated something in you. And she said, how did you know that? I said, well, look at your thumb. Oh yeah, I scratched the hell out of my thumb just now, didn't I? So we do. And I just want to be a little gentler, a little more nonviolent about the way I bring it up, because I think it's important to point out to people at times, sometimes not, of course, just let them be. But when it is, to bring it up in a gentle, constructive way.
So yesterday morning, this is, I believe, an example of that. Yesterday morning, I had an IFS session with a practitioner. And I think I mentioned that same session yesterday when we recorded the other episode. But there were times throughout the session that she'd said, okay, she'd ask me, so what are you experiencing right now? She asked me the question.
Oh, that's right. You're being coached. Right. Okay.
That's right. Yeah. So what are you experiencing right now? And I so appreciated the question, because during an IFS session, what I choose to do as a client is close my eyes, minimize external distraction, and really bring a lot of attention to what I'm experiencing internally.
Yeah.
There are visuals that I'll experience. There are physical sensations that I'll experience. There are thoughts that will want to just play with whatever idea has just been presented. Mm-hmm. And so when she would ask, there's always an answer. There was always something going on that in that moment had my attention. So mm-hmm. Another way she could have asked the question, I'm not saying it would have been a better way, I'm just saying a way she could have asked the question would have been, where is your mind right now? What are you experiencing in your body right now? What mm-hmm. emotions are you noticing, if any? Are you feeling any kind of an impulse that you're resisting? Mm-hmm. Anything like that is a report, and that would have to come from awareness that could only happen in presence. And as I would report it, it just it was really very nice to be. It almost felt indulgent to be able to say, "Well, this is where my mind's going right now," mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then we would see if that needed any more attention, and then come back to presence again. There's something about that was really valuable to me.
Yeah. Well, it also, to me, it goes to show like that it takes a village. It takes in my listening book, I call it the internal committee. This is before I knew anything about IFS, that I called it that in my book. Yeah. But like that, there are parts of it of us that are better at figuring stuff out. Parts of us that are better at, receiving emotion. Like that, we have, and it takes all of them.
That's right. It takes all of them. Speaking of the committee, the name popped into my head just now. When I was early in sobriety, this would have been in the 1980s. there was a speaker for AA. His name was Bob Earl, and he talked about the committee a lot back then.
Huh.
Yeah. And it was very well received. He was a very popular speaker out of California. And he, I think he was popular because he broke all conventions. He used a lot of profanity as he was speaking, and anywhere he went as a speaker for AA, it would be sold out. I mean, not that they'd sell tickets to it, but it would be a packed house. And I used to listen to cassette tapes of him talking, and he's very, very funny, but talked about the committee. Well, at that time, people didn't know about parts. In fact, Dick Schwartz was just learning about parts himself about that same time. And so it was a way for me and for others who I was in recovery with to begin to think in terms of, and just really notice there's a lot going on up here. There's often a lot going on up here that's not of our accord, that's happening like automatically, something for us to notice. Like, and Byron Katie helped me with this too. She would use some strange language. She would say, "I'm having a thought," rather than "I'm thinking." And when I thought, well, why does she insist on saying it that way? And then finally I understood what she's saying is she's noticing a thought, or she's having a thought, because that actually is reflecting what she's experiencing. To take ownership of it sometimes can be very confusing. Why would I be thinking that thought? Whereas I'm noticing that I'm having a thought loosens it up a little bit and relieves you of the pressure or the responsibility of having that thought in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, it takes it out of identifying with the thought.
Yes.
Like I have a lamp on this table, but I'm not the lamp. I have a thought going through my head, but I'm not that thought.
Yep. I'm noticing a thought, but I'm not the thought. Right. Yeah, she was the one.
I think that when you've coached me, and I usually close my eyes too. What I've noticed, I've never told you this, and maybe it's obvious to you as a practitioner, but I usually that space that you were describing where you can be more aware of what you're thinking because your eyes are closed and you're focused. What I notice is that my first thought, I always discount it. Okay, there's the first thought. What else? And then I realized in IFS, it's been good for me to see like, oh wait, that's the one we need to talk about. Forget about all those others that you could generate. The first one that came up, that's the one. That's the one, right?
Yeah. In fact, you mentioned that yesterday, and you said that you'll write that down when you hear the first thing you hear from a person. You'll write that down, and often that it ends up being the key to the session.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Well, Marty, can we begin to wrap up a little bit by summarizing what we talked about here today?
I don't know. What did we talk about?
Well, we started out with the theme, if we had a name for it, it would be being in your head.
Yeah.
And how I believe the first thing that we explored was how does that land? If you hear someone pointing out to you that you're in your head too much, how does that land? And I mentioned that, I get defensive. And what's interesting now as I reflect back on that earlier part of the conversation is that later we talked about how it's a matter of connection and disconnection, presence and absence. And the person that would point out, I think you're in your head too much, really more, if they were describing their own experience rather than their explanation for why they're having their experience, they would say, I'm not feeling the connection with you that I'd like to have. Where did you go? Where are you? I'm telling the story that you're in your head right now. Is that what's going on? Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
So that was interesting. We went through some Marshall Rosenberg, nonviolent communication, a couple of things like the one I just mentioned.
Right. Exactly. How to approach it when you notice that about somebody else. Yeah. And how to receive it when someone points it out to you.
We talked about a few things, methods, I suppose, for how to come back to presence. like asking another nonviolent communication question, what's alive inside?
Right. And we validated all these different aspects with spirit, mind, body, that we are as human beings, and that you want to keep them all in integrated and not like fall off the deep end into one and forget about the taking care of your body while you're thinking about things, for example.
Right. So being in your head, not innately a bad thing, inherently a bad thing is what I meant to say.
Right.
But can be problematic when being in your head, thinking about something from the past or the future, or trying to figure something out and not being in the present moment when there's and you're missing what's happening in front of you. That can be problematic.
Like my cousin, with the agenda expectation where I was going to pick her up at the airport and just not getting the scenario that I was talking about.
All right. Another enjoyable conversation, Marty. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, Bill.
Go out partying tonight?
Well, as I do every New Year's Eve, I will be chanting with my fellow Siddha yogis.
Yeah. I will be asleep. We usually get to bed and sleep by 10 o'clock. So
I hope to be in bed by 10 as well.
Mm-hmm. So when
we have a big event tomorrow morning, a big talk from our teacher. So I have to be up early for that.
When in the Central Time Zone, people are celebrating New Year's, celebrating and doing whatever they do, we'll be sleeping. No, we'll be falling asleep. So thank you. All right. We appreciate who you are, that you would be listening to this podcast, and want to acknowledge all those parts of you that yearn for the experience of the true you.
If you like this episode, click like, share it with others, and be sure to subscribe. Listen again next week for the newest episode.
Check show notes for a transcript and a link to resources, including a link to let us know if you'd like to be a guest on our podcast.
Thank you for listening and going on this journey with us back to the true you.